Hello to you, Maseko. How are we looking this morning? Are we seeing any more people than what you and I would have seen this time yesterday because we're so much closer to the big numbers coming out?
Good morning, Gareth. Well, we do miss you here at the National Rock. It was quite fun broadcasting with you here yesterday. I was hoping to see you this morning. But to answer your question, it's still quite empty, and I know exactly why. It's because the results are likely to come out a little bit later on, and different political parties will, of course, have impromptu press briefings that will take place today. At some point, the president might also arrive. So usually the last day of the counting, which we expect that to happen today, it becomes a bit busy in the afternoon into the early evening. So usually political parties will, or officials in political parties will decide to rather sleep in and come in a little bit later. So it's nothing new, but we do still have the FF Plus, which was also very early yesterday. They've come back again today. But before I speak to them, you're quite right, Gareth. Just as you were about to introduce me to the viewers, the percentage went up to 97%. So we've moved 1% from 96%. So we're almost done. That is the national number so far in terms of the votes that have been counted. And you're quite right. The ANC still leading at 46.01%, followed by the DA as official opposition at 21.2%. The EFF still third at 10.39%. That's a national picture. And the IFP coming in at 5.53%, and the FF Plus at 2.37%. So those are the top five parties, and between all five of them, really the one that has performed quite well and has improved between the last local government elections and these ones is the FF Plus. And I'm going to be speaking to Wouter Wessels for the FF Plus very quickly. I'm sure you're very happy seeing these results. It seems South Africans are starting to really trust the FF Plus to be the party that that they're giving a chance to grow.
Well, at 97% of municipalities done or voting stations done, we're standing on 190 councillors nationwide. And in 2016, we had 69 councillors. So that is a huge growth. And we then we can confidently say that voters are entrusting us with their votes and that we are the growing alternative. So we are excited for the next 5 years, and especially there where coalitions are reality and where we will be part of governments, we are excited about serving the people.
Now, Gauteng is definitely going to have hung metros. We can see that already. I mean, 99% in Ekurhuleni already complete, but the ANC leading with just 39%. So they're going to need another 11% or so to be able to lead in that province. You're also having a footprint there. There's Tshwane as well, where you were third place with the EFF at some point. And then there's obviously Johannesburg. Have you started to negotiate, or has anybody started to contact the FF Plus for negotiations with coalition?
Well, on local level, there has been talks, but we will, on national level, still have to wait for the final results. Tshwane, for instance, is still on 93% done, so their seats can still make a difference with regards to who will hold the power and which coalitions and which formations can at the end of the day form. And we'll have to wait for that, and then those talks will on a national level between the major role players commence, and most probably later this weekend, and then we'll see what happens here.
All right, thank you very much, Wouter Wessels, for the FF Plus. But also, Gareth, just to tell you something interesting that I've seen, definitely Gauteng will have hung metros, and that is, of course, the three big metros. Gauteng, a very small province compared to the other provinces around the rest of the country, but it's got the biggest metros, and it's the most highly contested, obviously, because it is an economic hub of the country. But what I found to be interesting is the city of Tshwane. Overnight, the ANC surpassed the DA as lead in the city of Tshwane, but even then it's just by a very small margin, 1.2 or 1.1%, and they're still at 32, so they still would need coalitions. But the city of Tshwane is interesting because for instance, new party, we were told by Herman Mashaba never to say new party, but rather say, or rather not to say small party, but rather to say new party. That's what he told us. They were not even there in the top 5 during the first day of counting as Action SA. It was always the DA, the ANC, followed by the FF Plus and EFF, which were competing for third place. Every now and then they would either be at the same spot or one would beat the other. Now suddenly we see Action SA come in 4th or 5th. So Action SA is really taking the top 5 of the 3 metros in Gauteng. So it'll be very interesting to see how these parties negotiate in terms of a coalition in this province.
Cannot help but imagine those negotiations, Masech. You're completely correct, because you're right, it's not a small party, it's a new party, but we know, of course, that Herman Mashaba is not new to the world of politics, remembering he was the mayor of Johannesburg as well. So if he is the smaller party in a coalition discussion, he still knows how to negotiate with the big parties as well, and how to run a city as well. Just before you go, if I'm not mistaken, we have the president arriving at your location later this evening. I understand he's going to be there about 6 o'clock.
That's correct, and that's what usually happens on the last day of this election period, when the IEC is going to make an announcement. Usually the presidents of the different political parties will arrive, and of course the president of the country, being Cyril Ramaphosa, will also arrive. So the IEC usually would make an announcement. So we expect that the president would arrive at around 6 o'clock or so. Yesterday and the day before, we've had numerous officials in the top 6 of the ANC that were here giving us interviews, and lots of other political parties. The National Rock is really the nerve of the elections. You know, a lot of people would expect that, for instance, if it's local government elections, that the party officials would meet journalists at the regional or at least provincial result centers. But it's always the national result center that becomes very busy. So I assume and I expect that my colleagues who will be coming a little later on today, such as Lindelo Masigani, Sally Burdett and Shahan Ramkisoon a bit later on today, will be extremely busy, because almost every political party and every member of political parties will be here. But just to quickly go back to Herman Mashaba and the very valid point you made, Gareth, the other reason why a lot of political analysts we've spoken to on eNCA are saying that the other reason, despite the fact that he has been a political leader before, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, and they're saying that he performed well in some aspects when he was here, the other reason is that because he was part of the DA, and having left the DA in the dramatic fashion that he did, there are some voters that he must have stolen from that particular party, and that's why we see them performing, you know, a little less than they did back in 2016.
Yeah, such a good point, Masejo, as well. People always ask the question, well, if the Democratic Alliance lost votes, where did they go? Well, it might appear, as I say goodbye to you for now, they went from blue to green, depending on which analyst you speak to. Masejo, go have a cup of coffee or 5 for me. We're back again to NROC a little bit later.